What's good, everybody? It's your boy JTL, Opposite from the Norm. And real quick, I just want to let y'all know about Opposite from the Norm apparel t-shirts. Brought to you by GFam G-Wear. You like our show and our content? Then go to gfament.com and click on G Store, and there you can purchase an Opposite from the Norm t-shirt. Also, you can check out other great tees that represent true kings and true queens as well. Shirts that motivate and make you feel great. Once again, that's gfament.com and click on the G Store link to get your apparel tees. Now back to the show. Chill.
When I'm looking at the FBI.gov crime in the U.S., and this is in 2016. I was trying to find other things for 2018, 19, and so I got to do a little more digging and researching because of the way they said it. So I got to get it because I want the better numbers. This from 2016 from the FBI gives better numbers. So they say murder and non-negligent manslaughter. Non-negligent means that they were they wasn't the one, it wasn't murder or something in a situation where they were like it was a mistake. It was something that they did purposely, basically. So they say when it comes to white Americans, murder and non-negligent manslaughter, in 2016, 4,192 white Americans committed those murders. They say black people, 4,935. When they say rape, they say 12,571 white men committed rape and 5,412 black men committed rape. When they say robbery, 33,095 white males committed robbery, but 41,562 black Americans committed robbery. Aggravated assault, 191,205 white males, 101,432 black males. Burglary, 112,651 white males, 47,991 black males. So these are different things. Then it says violent crime. They didn't break down, they just said violent crime. 241,063 white males, 153,341 black males. So once again, like I said, y'all can go to FBI.gov crime in the US to see all the rest of these numbers when it comes to race and people committing crime. But I want to point out something that we don't think about when it comes to our numbers, right? So when you look at that, when they say, okay, overall, it says that, like I said, white men that commit violent crimes, the most violent crimes is 5,858,330 white males, white people commit violent crimes. Black people, 2,263,112. But this is something that I think that I thought about. God bless me to think, give me the knowledge to think about it, and I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention when they say all these things about black people. So this is brought to us by CBSNews.com. Okay, and it says, once a criminal, always a criminal. About 68% of 405,000 prisoners released in 30 states in 2005 were arrested for a new crime within 3 years of their release from prison, and 77% were arrested within 5 years, according to a report by the Bureau of Justice Statistics released. The report, entitled Recidivism of State Prisoners Released in '05, is based on a BJS data collection which tracked a sample of former prison inmates from 30 states for 5 years following their release in 2005. So y'all can look that up even more than that. But I'm going to read a little bit more. Within 5 years of release, 82% of property offenders were arrested for a new crime compared to 77% of drug offenders, 74% of public order offenders, and 71% of violent offenders, and report found. Public order offenses include weapon offenses, driving under the influence, which is a DUI, and other miscellaneous or unspecified crimes. Regardless of the initial incarceration offense, the majority, 58% of released prisoners, were arrested for a public order offense within 5 years of release. An estimated 39% of released prisoners were arrested within 5 years for a drug offense, 38% for a property offense, and 29% for a violent offense. Okay, so the reason why I'm reading this, you may ask, is because if you look at the number of people that commit the same crimes, it ranges all the way up to 68%. So the majority of people that they're saying, whether it's, let's say, black people, when they say where what I counted was over 2.7 million violent crimes and offenses that black people get arrested for. But it says up to 68%. So if you cut that number down by almost 70%, 68%, so that means that that number of offenders, 2.7 over 2.7 million, almost 70%. If you cut that down, that's basically and I'm trying to give a good estimate. I don't want to, say the wrong thing and be some crazy off number. But if you say 70%, you know what I'm saying, out of 100%, at least 30%. So if you say 70% out of almost 3 million, then that basically would range that number around, I want to say if it's out of 27, I'm a little fucked up here. What is it? 4 times 7 is 28, right? Right, G? You there?
4 times, yeah, 28. I had to
All right.
think for
So
a
if we
second.
break that number, if
The
if we
math fucked up.
if we estimate that number, that's roughly, I want to say, around 400 or 400,000 or something like that. Over 400,000, somewhere at 400,000, 500,000. So if you break that number down, the majority of people that are committing these offenses are career criminals. These are the people that commit these crimes again. So when they talk about rape, if you notice, most of the time when people get out of prison, they usually are still watched. They're still on probation for a little while, a house arrest, or they're in those work programs. So most of these people are still watched because the system is convinced that they're going to do it again. And then you got to think, they're hoping that they catch them again because they make money off those industrial prison systems. You can
Yep.
invest in those prison systems
You
on
can
the stock.
invest in stock in that. Yes, sir.
Michael Jordan was one of the biggest well-known people that invest in prison systems. So when we look at the numbers and they try to just say we're just so violent, we're just so terrible. Okay, it's about around 43, roughly 43 million blacks in this country. So let's just say, excuse me, the number of over 2.7 million black people. Let's say they all different, even though those numbers show that most likely those people that commit those offenses are the ones that commit them again. But let's say it's about 2.7. So what about the other 40 million blacks that's in this country that don't commit these crimes? Their argument is okay, well, it's only 12, 13% population of black people here in America. But you have to think about this. Even though that's true, if you look at our history and what black people have been through, the difference, because they always try to bring up the Asian community and they try to bring up, what I'm saying, well, white and Asian. So the Asian, white, Pacifica, I'm sorry, Islanders, which would be like Hawaiian people and stuff like that, their crimes are really low. Like Islanders, their shit is down to like 25,000. So I get what they're saying on that note, but the difference with us, the people that migrated here, they came in intact with their culture. So they're coming here and they're knowing how to stick together. They send money back home. We don't have Africa as our homeland for our people, and that disconnect that we have with our own people in Africa. We don't have families that we're sending money back to saying, come on over here. We're gonna build together and all of that thing. So all these numbers, in a sense, in my opinion, when you leave out all the factors, they're conflated. So I wanted to bring that to people's attention for us to start researching and digging and really find out what's going on when it comes to our black people, like for us police brutality when it comes to racism, because they keep trying to say racism is not an issue, right? But then you keep seeing online all these Karens and these Johns and whatever you want to call them being racist and being disrespectful to black people or Hispanic people or Asian people. You see it all the time. but we allow it to escape through because at least it's not that bad as slavery was, or Jim Crow was, or abolition was. That's not a good excuse. We got to start digging and paying attention to our numbers. And excuse me. And another thing I want to bring up is the fact when they talk about so many jobs being created under Trump, we got to realize this: that shift and change of entrepreneur spirit and creating our own businesses was not because of Trump. It just he came at a time when we started being more into this is what we're gonna try to do on our own and stuff. Like my partner pointed out the endeavors that I have. Me owning my own business. I've owned my own business since 2017. You know what I'm saying? And May, and Trump just got in office. But I didn't start that business because Trump promised me something. That's something I've been wanting to do. And God bless me to have the money to do it, and I did it. That had nothing to do with him. It was people like Nipsey Hussle I seen. It was people like Master P. It was people in my community, like a brother named Frank Minton. It was another brother from St. Thomas named George Cardi. These brothers own their own business. So it was people like that. It was my mentor, like Mr. Murphy, who used to work for the Boys and Girls Club, and then he went and started a business called the Conservatory for Teens, where it was his own program, and he could run it how he wanted to help out the black youth in our community. These are the things I had been seeing for years that I was like, yo, I want to do this, I want to do that. God willing. So I went, and when I got the money, I planned for it, and I went and started my own business, gfament.com. Y'all go check it out. I had to plug that in there. But it had nothing to do with 5 Orange Face. It had nothing to do with him. So I'm just bringing all this stuff up. Like I said, we're going to dedicate, God willing, a whole show so I can dive in a little bit more with these numbers when it comes to what they say about the violent offenses that we do. When they say what 45 did for us, even though I got numbers that show different about the rise in jobs and black owned businesses before 45 even got in office. But I just wanted to bring it up so that people can start researching for themselves all these bullshit that these coons even join in and saying the same shit that racist white people say, but they try to say intelligently so to go over your head. So HD, I want you to go and tell me what you think about some of the numbers that I read off and also what I said about the violent offenders that are black people and how most likely they commit a lot of the same crimes when it comes to criminals in general. Why they making it seem like that 2.7 million is just all new black people committing those crimes.
Well, when we talk about the numbers, you know, from things that we've talked about before in our research, those numbers definitely can be skewed. They can go in and change numbers, and they also can withhold certain numbers. There could be where, let's say, in comparing the amount of violent crimes, where there's, even an offense like domestic violence, where a white man is beating up his wife, or if a white man shoots another white man, those numbers aren't reported and those numbers aren't put in. So they'll come out with a number at the end of a month saying, oh, well, in the month of May, there was 15 black on black shootings, but there was only one white on white. We can't necessarily believe that because a lot of those numbers are skewed. And, like when we were looking up those, the deaths of some of the blacks to polices, if they don't provide certain information, like first and last name and certain vital information like that, it doesn't even get reported. So you can have some evenings where, excuse me, 10 brothers and sisters are killed, but those won't go into the numbers because they didn't provide the name, the excuse me, the name, the date, the date of birth, and things like that. So when you go look at the numbers in the database, those 10 brothers and sisters that died on Tuesday night aren't even counted in. So they'll come out and say, oh, well, this week there was only 2 blacks killed by the cops, and that's incorrect. There were actually 12 because those other 10 weren't counted. And as far as the numbers, as far as black on black violent crimes, I mean, if you want to put that in perspective, of course we would have to go into the longer conversation of where we live, why we live in certain communities, because most of the things from what I've read, they say that, those happen within a certain radius of where you live. So it's going, within the communities that you live in. So if you live in a certain community and you around certain certain things, yeah, that's gonna happen. But one thing that you touched on earlier in your conversation was about how they were saying, about there is a certain racism within police forces. That's a complete crock of shit. Because unfortunately, now I have a family member who is within the police department. Um, hasn't even been in there 2, 3 years yet, but has already told me things about things that he's seen where color does play a big part within the police department. There are some times where they won't even send a black cop, for example, to a certain neighborhood. They'll send the white cops over there. Why? Because they know that those white cops are gonna go over there and do some violent shit or do some fucked up things over there. So they won't send a black cop because they know that black cop may go over there and try to peacefully say, hey, let's talk this out. I don't want to arrest nobody tonight, but they won't send the black cop over there. They're gonna send the white cop over there to do the dirty work. And there are also numbers that have to be reached within the, so that's not a, people try to tell you that, oh, that's not true. It is true. There are quotas that are placed out, and there are also bonuses that are placed out within, hey, if you do a certain amount of arrests within a month, or if you bring in a certain amount of colored people, because that goes on too. It's not just how many people you arrest. It also goes into, if you arrest a certain amount of black people, you'll get this bonus at the end of the month. So you have white cops out there thinking, oh, you know what? If I arrest a certain amount of blacks in this month, that's a vacation for me and my wife, or that's an extra $5,000 in my account. So what do? They go out looking for black people to arrest. Or if they do pull someone over, just like in the older days, it still goes on to this day. They're planting things, they're planting drugs in the car. So that's not just a traffic stop, it's an actual drug arrest. And they're doing these things, and our black brothers and sisters are sitting in prison or jail, whether it's overnight, for a weekend, a month, 2 months, or even a year, over some shit that they didn't even do. And they're sitting in jail for a month because this crack ass cop wanted to get a bonus on his check. And then when that does happen, that goes into the numbers as well. You have these cops who are arresting 10 more people, 10 more blacks, or just people of color, whether it be Mexican, whatever, they're arresting 10 or 20 more people within a month so they can hit a quota, but those numbers don't get reported. Those numbers, they'll say, oh, well, yeah, we only arrested 10 blacks this entire month when really it's 35. But those other 25, they're not reporting because those numbers are there to be met to reach a quota, and they're not going to release those numbers because if they did, that would make that particular police department look fucked up. So all these people who screaming about, oh, numbers don't lie, you have no idea what the fuck you talking about. It's a lie. And as I said, I have someone now on the inside who tells me these things, who sees these things all the time, who tells me, yo, this is what's going on, or I've seen this going to happen, or I've seen people doing stuff for money, or I'm asking to be sent over to a certain neighborhood so I can quiet send things down, but no, they're gonna send a white cop over there so they can handle shit. And those numbers don't get reported. So everyone who wants to walk around and say that numbers don't lie, they really do, because numbers are made by man. So if you're gonna say men lie, the men are the ones making those numbers.
Hmm. So I'm gonna go ahead and end with that, so that way, because I know my partner got some things to do shortly, so I'm gonna help keep him on a good time schedule. So we're gonna go ahead and go into our last segment of the show, and that is called Black Excellence. I'm gonna let you go ahead and start yours, and then I'm gonna come behind you and read mine.
All right, so for my Black Excellence this month, excuse me, month, what am I talking about? Today, I picked a sister, Miss Desiree Rogers, who's Chief Executive Officer of Johnson Publishing Company Incorporated. This young sister has a Harvard Business School degree, Something to highlight for her back in 2004, she was elected president of People Energy, two natural gas utilities, where she facilitated a 150-year-old company, helped them transition from a traditional under the radar entity into a centric organization. During the company's acquisition by the $7 billion energy company, Rogers led the integration of two utilities. So she spearheaded that whole thing. And then in 2008, President Obama named Rogers the first African American social secretary. As the social secretary, her job was to help people visualize what the Obama presidency was about, the values of, blacks who for voting, which includes the transparency of blacks vote, help to translate the splendor and the comfort of knowing blacks are in the White House. And she also helped to recruit the repositioning of the Obamas in a because they're under a non-traditional vision. The entire America has a non-traditional vision of what the White House is. So she was helping on that side to, create a better view of having some blacks in the White House. Her office produced 350 events in her 14-month tenure and turned the White House into a showcase for American art and culture. And she also helped spearhead the development of the social networking strategy for the Allstate Corporation and creating innovative concepts for events at the White House. Also, she helped Thomas Wilson, who's the chairman and CEO of the Allstate Corporation, who recruited Rogers, and in a few months, she helped to extend her influence and drive change inside the company from her position on the executive committee. She also served on several corporate and non-profit boards, most recently serving on Equity Residential, which is a publicly traded REIT, which that goes into the stock market, and as vice chairman of the Lincoln Park Zoo and the Museum of Science and Industry. So big ups to Miss Desiree Rogers. That's a young sister who's doing her thing, not only in the business world, but also helped in the Obama administration as well.
All right. So, I got a quick question on that, if you don't mind. So this sister, do you think that Obama showing her some love for what she did is like a good thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you think he actually was doing it to highlight a sister in a good way, or was it um something that he was doing to make it look like he cared for black people?
Man, I would just only hope that he wasn't doing it for no bullshit. Because, of course, I didn't share everything I read about her because I'd be going on for a while. But this seems to be a really smart sister who, rose up through the ranks. Went to, one of the most prestigious colleges as a black woman, which is not easy to do to even get accepted into those schools. So I hope he wasn't just dangling her around. I don't know what's in his heart, but I hope that he wasn't just playing her for the fool. But in an instance, even if he did play her for the fool, at least that wasn't her only thing that she's known for. You know what I'm saying? She has other things going for herself, and she's a great businesswoman. So I hope he did the right thing, man. That's something I don't know. I can't answer that.
Yeah, me too. All right, so mine is going to be the Negro Victory Committee
Oh
from
Lord,
19
that sounds like
1941.
some old Virginia slave stuff, man. What are you doing?
All right, hold on. From 1941 to 1945, the Los Angeles Negro Victory Committee was organized in 1941 to protest racial discrimination in industries throughout the city that bar African American workers. Reverend Clayton Russell of the People's Independent Church of Christ in South Central Los Angeles and Colorado Bass, publisher of the California Eagle, the largest African American newspaper in the state, gathered prominent public officials, professionals, union leaders, and NAACP members, along with his church congregation, to create the committee in 41. The committee initially sought to gain employment in defense industries that discriminated against black workers prior to and during the early years of World War II. They were one of many organizations throughout the country to galvanize around the Double V campaign to fight both international and domestic racism, with Reverend Russell using his weekly radio program and Carlotta Bass using her newspaper. The Negro Victory Committee became the leader in the effort to integrate Southern California's defense industries. The Negro Victory Committee coordinated numerous mass meetings to protest discriminatory practices. They led fights to locate defense industry job training centers in Watts, hire black conductors and locomotive drivers on the Los Angeles Railway. Railway. I said
Look
railway.
at this guy.
Like I'm drunk. Railway. And challenge exclusion and racism in the armed forces and labor unions. They also organized campaigns to protest housing segregation and quotas for whites in city employment. One of the most successful campaigns was the 1942 protest against the United States Employment Service in 1942. The committee's protest march ended usage policies placing black women exclusively in janitorial and service positions in defense plants. The activities of the Negro Victory Committee propelled the committee's leadership into important positions in corporations and city government during and after World War II. Reverend Russell's popular appeal oh, um, won, however, after his unsuccessful 1945 campaign for Los Angeles County's Board of Supervisors. Like many wartime organizations, the Negro Victory Committee's momentum faded by the end of World War II in 1945. So shout outs to those brothers and sisters for doing what they did, coming together, trying to find our best way. Because as we see now, the NAACP ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Al
Say it
Sharpton,
again.
all them Jesse Jackson motherfuckers, they get their payday and haul ass, and just like in St.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, we have an office in St. Pete, one of their chapters. Me and my homeboy, we went in there just to see what it was about. They were like, "We ain't got nothing going on," and they're like, "But you sitting here collecting the check off the people." Fucked
Right.
up shit. But God bless those people. We need more people trying to have organizations that's fighting for things, but our organization direction needs to change to where we're trying to fight to develop and start our own shit versus trying to get with them all the time. So that is Black Excellence. So we're gonna go ahead. We about to end the show now. We're gonna do some shout outs real quick to people before we end the show and let my boy HD get back to his business and things he gotta take care of. So I'm gonna let my boy HD go ahead and do his shout outs real quick.
Uh, Today I'm gonna just shout out my auntie in Georgia. I'm shouting her out because she sent me a picture of my grandfather who I didn't ever get to meet because unfortunately he passed away before I was born. I never had a solo picture of him. I've had other pictures where there's other people in the picture. I finally got a solo picture of him that made me feel so good that I can actually put up a picture in my house of my granddad. So that's what I'm shouting out today. My auntie Pamela up in Georgia. Thank you for that.
That's what's up. And I definitely want to give a shout out to all my peoples out there, man. Keep trying, keep holding your head up, man. God got you. God got you. God got us. You know what I'm saying? God gonna bless us to get through this, get out the way of the situation and whatever's going on right now, whatever's going on in your personal life, man. Just keep faith, keep your head up, man. Stay prayed up, and don't let the little BS bother you or stop you off your path. You know what I mean? So we're gonna definitely get out of here. And once again, make sure you like, share, comment, and definitely subscribe. This your boy JTL right here.
Yo, this your man HD signing out.
Yeah, we get at y'all.